So actually, we'll get to that in a minute, because if they show up, then we'll deal with theirs. I'd like to welcome everybody who's here. I see mostly people who we have seen here before. Especially welcome the Sue and Jeff show from the far reaches of the world, anchoring us at Greenwich Mean Time, +1 actually, because I assume because it's daylight savings time, because they are actually there, not so very far from Greenwich. Or for those of you who don't recognize it, that would be Greenwich, which would be horrifying to the ear of a Brit, but they're from England. So somebody, actually not somebody, this is John. Lovely story. People have sometimes asked me how you toilet train a child, and there are books written on it, and horrifying books actually, where children are almost trained with a cattle prod. They're shamed into being toilet trained, and then some children are rewarded into being toilet trained, all of which are just awful, because then children aren't given to understand that the reason to use a toilet is because, well, it's more convenient. That's all. To use a toilet for the right reasons, that's why, instead of to use toilets because they're associated with M&Ms, sweets, so you won't be beaten or yelled at, all these crazy reasons that books teach kids to use toilets. Well, in real life, you don't you don't ever see an adult run to the toilet and then come out and expect an adult to give them sweets. So the idea is to teach children to do things for the sensible right reason, for the reasons that they'll be using for the rest of their lives, which is the same, kind of underpinnings that we use in all things that we do in Real Love. We don't ever do anything artificially. You'll never go to a Real Love meeting where, for example, you'll see people all hyped up with emotion. You'll never see me stand up in front of a group and, get everybody to do cheers and do anything that's artificial in a meeting, because if what you do in a meeting isn't like what you do out in real life, it doesn't transfer very well. I've gone to countless things where people get all excited and hyped up, and you can get people really emotional and really feeling like woo-woo in a meeting or at a gathering or whatever, and it really does give them a high. It does. And people walk out of there going, wow. But then it wears off, because out in the real world, it doesn't work like that. There's nobody standing up there like the guy that you just paid $1,500 to, who's waving his arms and cheering you on and doing all the artificial stuff. You have to do it like real life. So what I often tell parents is, you don't get excited and do a bunch of artificial stuff with kids that are toilet training. You love them and you teach them and you say, there's the toilet, and that's where you go. And that works never. Pretty much. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen one kid in 100 when you say, this is where you go to the toilet, and the kid goes, well, thanks, Dad. That'd be an easier place to go. No, they've spent the last 2 or 3 years pooping in their pants, and frankly, they've gotten used to it. It's disgusting to adults, but they can't remember that, as a little kid, it's just really easy. They just sit there and they go, big deal. They're used to it. So what I teach parents is that you move from love and teach to consequences. And so you tell the child, from now on, when you do whatever you do in your pants, you're just going to have to clean it up, or in your bed, or in the car seat, or wherever. You just have to clean it up. Wipe it up, change your diapers, do the laundry. Now you have to help them, because 2-year-olds do a terrible job of changing their diapers, but they have to do the work. They have to put the diapers in the whatever bucket, and they really do the laundry. They have to strip their beds and wipe everything, do all that stuff. And it's a lot of work, and they hate it. And it's a lot of work for you. It's much faster if you do it yourself. Way faster than helping a 2 or 3-year-old, because they bungle it and they make a mess of it. And but if you persist, they hate it so much, cleaning it up, that they quit it. So here's a letter from John. He says, my son is almost 4 and he hasn't wet the bed in a long time. I took his diapers away over 9 months ago and lovingly took him through the cleaning up his mess whenever he went potty anywhere else but in the potty. He would take a bath, take his sheets and pajamas to the washer. He would, with paper towels, clean up anything on the plastic liner on the mattress and then spray it down with Lysol. Picture this. He's 4. Then he would help make the bed. And you can do it way earlier than that if you want to. It's up to you. This sometimes lasted over an hour because he didn't want to clean up the mess. It takes as long as it takes. In those cases, I would just go read a book, and eventually he would start cleaning up. Many late nights at 3 a.m. The only time this fails is when the parent doesn't persist. This weekend we played in the pool and played ball at my parents' house about 2 hours away, and then we headed home, and I timed it so he'd fall asleep in the truck. That way I could just pick him out of his chair and place him in bed. Bad daddy. Because I took the easy way out, John says. I knew he was tired and had tons to drink. Well, formula for disaster. And John realizes that. I should have woken him up, asked him if he needed to go pee, and at about 2 a.m. he woke up crying. John knew what had happened. I told him it was okay, took him to the bathroom. He was soaked from head to toe. We washed up in the bathtub, changed into new pajamas. I told him that I should have woken him up so he would have had the chance to go. Oh, what a loving father. No shaming. No, you should have anything. No, the father said, my bad, my mistake. I told him that I would take the sheets and the pajamas out to the washing machine. Duh, it was the father's mistake. No problem. When I came back to the bedroom, get this, the 4-year-old had the Lysol out and was cleaning up with a paper towel that he'd gotten from the kitchen. Is that sweet or what? He didn't have to be told anything. I was amazed, smiled, and said, thank you for cleaning up. It was cool to see what real love had done for my son. This is amazing. Now, John adds, parenthetically, that any time that the kid would clean up after himself, like pee the bed or whatever, that John would always go back over it and, just make sure that it was technically clean, which, of course, is brilliant. The idea is to teach the child that he's responsible, not to make the child responsible for being in charge of housekeeping, because children will never do the cleaning job that, you would want done. That's not the point. So, what a perfect example of how to teach a child to be in charge of cleaning. Then, if you screw up, you go, I was stupid, I blew it, I will take care of cleaning up this time. Perfect. Couldn't be done better. Just flawless. Great example of consequences and loving and teaching and just amazing. Somebody asked last time, and this is the last question I've got. So actually I've got I always keep a cache of questions. So ask all the questions you want. We can deal with your questions this week because I don't have any saved, but I always keep a cache of old questions from the past, and I can do that for about a year. Do you recommend, in real love groups, do you recommend sticking only to the what, why, what questions? Or can that be expanded to asking things like, what did you learn? Or offering some possible insight without expectations. Oh, I don't have hard and fast guidelines or rules about nothing. The what, why, what questions are simply there as a tool, something to help you, something especially to help groups where they get stuck in advice giving or where they simply don't know what to say next. It's just to help you. Frankly, as I'm talking to somebody, I don't remember the last time I thought of them, they actually went through my head. What, why, what? We just did a 2-day seminar in Atlanta where we talked to people for 2 days, and I never thought of them once. And now, actually, somewhat to my embarrassment, I never used them once. I mean, I never put them up on the easel, to take people through them, to show them how they were useful. That would have actually been a good thing to teach people. So in May 18th, 19th? In May 17th and 18th, you can learn about it on the website. We're doing another 2-day immersion training session for coaches and for anybody else who wants to attend. I'll show you, I'll spend more time doing the what, why, what. But this training session will be in Phoenix. So we're trying to vary this to make it more accessible to people. We just got through doing one in Atlanta. This one will be more toward the West Coast to make it more accessible to people there, and to complete and make more accessible to complete the training of Real Love coaches who began it in Atlanta, and to allow more coaches to enter their training. So we'll be doing another 2-day immersion in Phoenix in May. You can learn about that on the site. So you can use the what, why, what. That's mainly if you're stuck and you're talking to somebody and you're going, oh boy, I don't know what to say next. Then use those. On the whole, I don't think about those anymore. And it's okay if you do. If you get stuck, it's better to use what, why, what than it is to plow in with giving people advice right off. When somebody speaks and the next words out of your mouth are, I think you should, you probably shouldn't be speaking. That's usually not the best thing to say next. So here's a question. So is this one I need to do here?
I might be stuck, to tell you the truth. I don't have a cursor. You might be on your own.
Oh, okay. So you're not seeing these.
I'm not seeing anything. I can't type anything.
Oh.
I can't highlight anything.
So Donna is stuck, and I'm going to have to see these.
Maybe I'll...
Oh, okay. Here we are then. A new client of mine, says a coach, says that I'm a godsend, and I'm so annoyed by it. She goes on and on about it, how she's was meant to meet me, and so on, even though she's just seen me for like 2 minutes. How do I respond to her, and why am I so irritated? Hang on. Here we are. I feel like I want to rain on her parade, and I don't know how to respond to her praise. Okay. So first you need to understand why she's praising you. I mean, 2 reasons usually why people go on and on. One is that if she has not known real love, and then you come along and you give her some encouragement, some attention, some unconditional love. If somebody has seen none and you give them even a little, this is like a deluge. If somebody's been living in the desert for their entire life and you come along and even sprinkle a little bit on their head, it's a flood. And they hardly know what to do. And I've gotten this many, many times in my life. So people come along and they go, oh, you saved me. Oh, thank you so much. And they go on and on. Well, part of that is sincere. Part of that they really mean. But the other part is really dangerous. And this is the part that's bugging you. This is the part that's irritating to you. The other part is that they're jumping right back into a pattern that they've known all of their lives. And that is, they're trying to barter with you. So all they've known, you're trying to offer them real love. They don't know what to do with that. All they know how to do is play on the field of death. So you're saying, I'm offering you the real thing, and they go, I don't know what to do with that. They don't know how to receive anything unconditionally. They only know how to control what they get. So what are they going to do? Pop right back onto the field of death and praise you. So now they're going to immediately pay you just like they get out their wallet. So they're going to reach in their wallet and say, wow, thank you so much for what you've done for me. You are so wonderful. We were meant to meet. You're just the greatest thing in the world. And you're just the very best. And see, the reason it bothers you is that here you're trying to do something unconditionally, and she keeps going, and aren't you just the greatest? And she keeps paying you for what you're trying to offer her unconditionally. She is stomping on your gift. Follow? So she's discounting or disregarding what you're trying to give her as an unconditional gift. She's ruining it. In addition to which, she's obligating you now to give her more. So she's ruining it and setting you up, obligating you to give her more, or it gets worse, and she's setting you up with expectations that there's no way in this world you're ever going to meet. So you're screwed if she keeps this up. She's just ruining this relationship. So what can you do about it? Oh, this is easy. You have to just spoil this right off. Now, you do it in a really nice way. So when people, for example, say to me, oh, you're just so wonderful, you say, I'm nobody. You just tell them the truth. You say, this has nothing to do with me. If you start to accept that praise, you are dead. If you accept even this much of it, because we do this. People say, you are so wonderful, and you go, well, it's not that big a deal. You see how I just took a little bit of it? Not that big a deal. Well, I just took some of it. No, you say, I'm nothing. This has nothing to do with me. Because let me tell you, honey, for every person who's told me that I'm wonderful, there are 10 out there who've kicked me in the teeth for being a loser. So I know that it has nothing to do with me. Either you do the work and go out there and tell the truth about yourself and feel the love that's offered to you, or you don't. So if your life changes, let me tell you, kid, I've learned this. It's you. If it doesn't change, it's you. So all I do is offer you a chance to change. And, I'm tickled to be there, but I'm like the guy that changes the tire on the race car. I don't drive the car. I'm like the guy who waters the plants in the field. I don't make the plants grow. I don't make the sun come down on the plants. I don't have anything to do with the miracle of the plants growing. Do you get this? I mean, the miracle of a plant growing is unbelievable. It's a combination of soil and water and sunshine and God and genetics and billions of years of evolution and all of it. And all I did was plop water on it. So if you think I was the miracle worker and all that, you're dreaming. You tell it to them like that. And you completely get rid of this notion that you're somehow the rainmaker, because you ain't. And if you demonstrate that you're not willing to take the praise at all, it stops. The other thing you do is you provide them other people to talk to. And you say, oh, I'm just one person. Your happiness is linked to me like zero. I'll give you some things to do and I'll give you some information. But now you need to feel loved by not only me, but by OSHA and Fred and Susie and whoever. See? So you start spreading out the wealth, and before long, you don't get that praise anymore, and you don't get attached to it either. It's fun. We have a tendency to buy into that stuff. Oh, sorry, I just read this here, because, see, Donna can't get a hold of this thing. She can't highlight it. She can't stop me when I'm being an idiot. she says, I'm not a coach, it's a business client. Same thing. I wouldn't change a single word I just said. So even though it's not about unconditional love, if it's a business client, you say the same thing. You say, rather than love, you say, I give you some information, I give you some tools, I give you some blank, 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 but all the changes are you. And so, you know, I'm just one little cog in an enormous machine. And all the changes you're going to see are all a result of you applying it. So I wouldn't really change a thing I said, except for, you know, some of the words, love, change, and so on. Does that make sense? So still, the feelings that she's feeling from you are still the attention you're giving her. And she's still feeling love from you. So everything I just told you, still the same, except for giving her people to call to feel unconditional love. She's still feeling love from you, and she's still trying to trade with you on the field at death. The principles are still the same. All right. A single mom I know, says this person, has a severely autistic 5-year-old child who has to be supervised nearly 24/7. That's about as hard a job as there is on the planet. The child will smear his feces on the walls or will scream and throw unending fits. That's what I mean by hard. The mother is a special ed school teacher, so she's surrounded by very needy children too. Whoa. She will be relocating out of the state to be near family who have volunteered to help her with her son. How can we best love this mom when she is necessarily leaving her real love family? Ask her. Don't ask me. Ask her. So ask her what you can do. Ask her whether the best kind of support that you can give her is, like, for example, to go over to the house and visit her and help her physically before she moves, to give her phone calls when she leaves and is out of the state. You know, I don't know. She'd be the one who'd be able to tell you. Now, you can offer her options. You can say, would it be best to call, but she'd be the person to ask. I don't know her well enough. You will. My 9-year-old continues to steal food and hide it to eat it. I find the wrappers beside the TV days later after it's happened. In our house, if you don't ask to get food or snacks, you miss the next meal. How can I best love him and help him with a consequence when I don't see it for days later? If you know that the kid is stealing food and hiding it, then the thing to do in our house is that if you steal a thing and you're sneaking, then you lock up the food. That's up to you. There's lots of different consequences to use. But for example, if we have a kid who, for example, sneaks out of bed, we would have that. Let's say a kid who was given a consequence of not watching television, and we would have kids, for example, set their alarms for 3 o'clock in the morning and get out of bed and watch TV. Well, that's easy. So then you'd take a little cash box, one of those little metal cash boxes, and cut a little slot in the cash box and put the TV power cord through the slot so that the power plug is inside the cash box, and then just lock it with a key. And so they'd get up at 3 in the morning and go in there to turn on the TV and discover that the power cord was locked up, which they found very infuriating. You can do the same thing with food. You can put all the food in the house in a place that can be locked up. It's a bother. That's one thing you can do. Or you can say, if we find that you've stolen food, For example, there are other consequences, like other things can be withdrawn, like the use of the computer or whatever. You can come up with a consequence. You can think of stuff that the kid really enjoys that he would really hate having removed. You just, in our house, we call it ramping up the consequences. If you apply consequence A and the child doesn't abide by the consequence, then we say to the kid, it's the old Fram oil commercial, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. So you can pay me cheaply now, you can abide by consequence A, or if you don't do that, then we will add consequence B. And if the kid doesn't abide by that, then we add consequence C and consequence D until it becomes so unbearably inconvenient that the kid finally screams, "Uncle, I give up," and he goes back to abiding by consequence A. And then you say, okay. And then eventually, every kid in the house catches on. So that when you say, "Would you like to pay me now or pay me later?" and the kid goes, "Oh, you only have to say that usually once or twice after they catch on that you aren't joking. And they go, "Okay, we got it." But see, it's a drag for parents to see to it that consequences are really applied. Parents usually go, "Oh, it's such a bother to really carry this out." Like John was talking about, to get up at 3 in the morning and see to it that a 4-year-old strips his bed and does the laundry. That's a bother. Most parents just roll over and go back to sleep. Yes, I know. We had 6 teenagers in the house at one time with 7 kids. Yes, I know what a bother it is to raise kids. That's kind of the nature of the deal. But see, you're the one that brought them into the world, not the other way around. So you have to be willing to do what it takes to love and teach them without any irritation. You just say, here's the consequence, and when it's time to apply it, you have to apply it. Because it's pretty rare that a child will say to you, "Dad, I insist that we apply this consequence." Or you never buy the snacks that the kid likes in the first place. Whatever. There's so many clever ways for parents to do this. If a kid keeps it up, you get rid of them all, or you put all the snacks locked in one box, or be creative. Let's see. Lori says, "I read some tips on dating. One of the tips is to, I think it was in a magazine, is to never deprive a man of the thrill of the chase." Oh, these magazine tips are the dumbest things you'll ever read. It said to entice men, to play with them, which, by the way, if you're enticing somebody and you're playing with them and you're not telling them that you're enticing them and playing with them, what are you doing? You're lying to them. And then release them. Oh, awful. Allow men to initiate and take the lead in moving your relationship forward. When men chase you, they're much less likely to fly away. Who makes this stuff up? How do I explain to my friends that are dating that this is so much bull? You let them read the Real Love and Dating book. Really. I mean, you say to people, everything that lasts in life, everything that lasts, this is really simple, this isn't complicated. Everything that lasts is based on everybody can fill the blank in here. Everybody past the age of like 7. Everything that lasts in life is, because we teach them this in school, based on the truth. Simple. We all learned this in grade school. And if you're enticing and playing games with somebody and you're not telling them that you're doing that, are you telling them the truth? Let's see, yes or no. This isn't really rocket science. No. And so if you're not telling them the truth, will your relationship be based on the truth? So what are the odds that your relationship will then be successful? 0. And let's see, all these dating tips are the tips that people are presently applying in relationships in this country where the the divorce rate is 60%, and the remaining relationships absolutely are horrifying. And yet these people continue to give tips and we're taking them? I don't know if anybody finds this insane, but I really do. Pretty nutty. Somebody asked, does the 9-year-old have to ask for any food or just candy? Well, if a child is stealing food, I assume these are snacks. If a child is stealing snacks, then the child, at least in our house, would be not allowed to have any kind of food between meals. But that would be something you'd have to decide. That would be true in our house. That may not be true in your house. You have to come up with your own consequences. Somebody here says, this is Joan in Arizona. After speaking with you and my real love family, I am out of an unloving relationship for 3 months now. But I still struggle to completely stop communication, which I assume means with your partner. He continues to say he is interested in making changes and to learn real love with me. However, in order for us to do this, I must spend time with him so we can be together. I feel that leaving him alone would be the most loving thing to do. I get empty and afraid and feel very lonely and then continue to cling. Sure, I've not started dating anyone. Here's my problem. I've met another man I would like to get to know, and he seems interested in me. In fact, I feel like a silly schoolgirl when he is near. I want to do the right and loving thing for all concerned. How do I know when and how to do the right thing? Oh, sweetie, please listen to these words. Please listen carefully. So, for 3 months, you've been out of a relationship that you couldn't be healthy in because you didn't have enough real love. Then, you had a hard time, watch this, you had a hard time even separating from him because you kept clinging with him. So what am I defining? You're in a relationship that was imitation love, imitation love. You couldn't even separate from it because you were clinging. More imitation love. Now you have found a man who is interested in you, who is reaching out to you. What are the odds that you'd find a random man who's going to be giving you real love? Close to zero. And he's interested in you, and you feel like a silly schoolgirl. Now, I'm not making fun of you, sweetie. You feel like a silly schoolgirl invariably because somebody is hitting you with a fire hose of imitation love. We only fall in love, fall into it because of a big dose of imitation love. And we only feel like silly schoolgirls because of a lot of imitation love. So don't do it. Don't, period, do not. How do you know when you're ready for your next relationship? If you go from one relationship that you're clinging to another one, you will, not might, you will blow it. It's a guarantee. The odds that you won't are so minuscule. People say, well, but what if it works out? Yeah, the odds that it will work out are kind of like spinning a 6-gun, a revolver, and pointing it at somebody and hoping that a flower will come out instead of a bullet. I kid you not. So, how will you know when you're ready? Well, I'll tell you what's worked for us in all men's groups. We tell a guy who's serious, really serious about knowing whether he's ready for his next relationship to do this. Keep coming to the group and keep telling the truth about himself in the group. It doesn't have to be an all men's group. You could do this with a women's group or even a mixed group. But go to a group. And you're in Arizona where there are groups. You go to a group and you keep telling the truth about yourself. And then what you do is, as you are consistently honest with the group, and I mean every week, Then after, another 2 or 3 months, you say to the group, do you think I'm ready for a relationship? And what happens is, if 80% of the people in the room fall on the floor laughing, you're not. And let me tell you, we've had a lot of those. Guys come in and they say, I think I'm ready to date. And 80% of the guys will tell you their vote by falling on the floor laughing. That means you're not ready to date. Whereas, if 80% of the guys in the room go, you probably are ready to date. These guys really care about you. They do. They're not trying to keep you from dating. If 80% of the guys in the room go, yeah, you probably are. Don't date until at least 2/3 of the people in your group go, cool. Because they're going to be your best indicator of whether you're ready. I'm not joking. Don't make that decision on your own. Don't do it, because you will screw up. And the price is too high. You don't want to make that decision on your own and pay for it with the next year of your life. You don't. It's too expensive. You don't want to put that revolver to your head. It isn't worth it. And I care about you too much. Don't. Kelly says here, one rule of dating, put your stinky foot forward. Yes, but there's a more important rule of dating. Don't even go out and start until your real love group tells you you're ready to put your stinky foot forward. I mean it. Because you can get into a mess and not even realize you're in one. All right, let's see. If somebody has a question that I've missed, I don't see one, then pop it up there again. Because I think I've gotten all the ones that have been asked. All right, somebody says, what happens if you have a friend that says she's not dating, but just sharing real love with friends at lunchtime? Great. Then that's probably not dating. It's dating when you're spending one-on-one time with somebody, and that's when it starts to get dangerous. How much information should you share on a first or second date? I mean, do we just start throwing up all of our Do we just throw up all our mistakes, or can you say, I've made a million mistakes, and now I have information to do things different? I don't mind sharing truths about myself, but should we tell it all right away to get through rejection fast, or to find out if he can really accept you? My suggestion would be the short answer, actually the long answer, no, short answer, is read the Real Love and Dating book. Because in the dating book, it actually gives you several pages of things to say on a first date, like pages of them. Say this, say this, say this, you might tell this much truth, say this thing, say that thing. It gives you actual quotes of things to actually say. But now a longer answer is, you don't want to dump everything on anybody on a first date, only because it's overwhelming. Most people just aren't prepared for that. It's just too much for most folks. So on a first date, it's like an experiment. So on a first date, you tell them little stuff, like you would say, I was in a marriage before. You want to tell them that. I was married before. And I learned a lot about relationships. I learned that I wasn't nearly as mature as I thought. I wasn't nearly as prepared to love as I thought I was. In fact, I thought I knew what love was, and I really didn't. Then, now notice, that was all of what? 3 sentences? That's all. That's an example of realistic, unobtrusive truth-telling. There was notice there wasn't a single real love term in there. I didn't use the word real love. I didn't say getting and protecting behaviors. I didn't say imitation love. I didn't say the law of choice. See? No funny language in there. I just said, I was less mature than I thought. I wasn't as ready, blah, blah. Common language anybody would know. And if the guy you're with goes, what? And he just wants to order another beer and wants to know when you're going to go back to his house, then you're done with the date. See? That's why you tell the truth a little bit at a time. If you tell that much truth and the guy says, what's your cup size? You're done. You're finished. That's why you do a little. But if you do a little bit and the guy goes, freak me out. I don't think I've ever had anybody talk like that on a first date. Well, I'm not sure I know what love is either. Well, now, what's he telling you? He's telling you, tell me a little more. So now, even though you're on a first date, now you tell him a little more. Then you watch and see what his response is. This is called graduated truth-telling. You tell a little bit, and you see what he does. And if he tells you a little more, not just listens, you can get street signs to listen. And then he says, well, I've done that too. And he answers a little bit. And he tells you a little truth, and he asks you a question. And then you tell a little more. You may end up telling quite a bit of truth on the first date, depending on how he responds. So the first date may end up being like incredible, depending on how it goes. So you just kind of listen and follow. So it really depends. Or you may end up saying 3 sentences, and if the guy's an absolute moron, you finish the hors d'oeuvres and go home and say, see ya. Why? Why would you keep going past that if the guy's a complete jerk? Or her. See? So you really listen. And there are plenty of people like that. But the advice I've given to my kids over and over is, you listen to your date, and if you're really paying attention, your relationship should last 1 date, maybe 2 if you're slow, because these people are telling you with every breath who they are. And if you talk to people who have ended up marrying somebody who they were dating on a real love basis from the beginning, they'll tell you what a hoot it is. Because they just tell the truth about themselves right from the beginning, and it's a scream. Anyway, the dating book will tell you through all this stuff. It's a hoot. Let's see. Greg, I want to shake my knees hard. Yeah, I've wanted to shake several people hard, but it doesn't really help. It doesn't seem to improve their brains. Loving her is not working. She's struggling really badly in all areas of her life. Her son, 13, is getting the brunt of her getting and protecting behaviors. You hate to see that, don't you? You hate to see somebody close to you beating up on their child with getting and protecting behaviors. But it's their child. Makes you crazy. But it's their kid. I've led her to water, opened her mouth, and put the water in, and she's still not drinking. Any suggestions? No? No, not really. I wish I were smarter than this. You're doing what you can do. You love her, you water her. It's like I was talking about before. All you can do is water them. And you can't make the miracle happen. You can't. But don't give up. I do suggest that. How many people in my life have I seen where it appeared that real love was making no difference in their life? None. And then, after a year, nothing. After 2 years, nothing. And then something happened. And it started to make a difference. Don't give up. Just don't give up. I guess that's my single suggestion. Winston Churchill, never give up, he said. So don't. It's Why? John said, I would like to be a fly on the wall when a real love date happens. It's actually a hoot. I've never, actually, I have. Since I started my relationship that way, it is a hoot. I'd love to see the expression on the face of the other person who is trying their best to manipulate the real love person. Now, I've never been on that kind of date. I've only been there when it's been a real love date, and it's just really very fun. But I've never been on a date and watched one person who was a real love person and when the other person wasn't. But yeah, I'll bet it's very disorienting. Let's see. We came in late. Don't know if you answered our second question about Allie. I don't remember that question. If so, here's the question. She keeps asking the same questions over and over again, despite the fact that we answer her and do not change the answer. If the answer is yes, it's on the way, she'll keep pestering about it until it's actually in her hands. If the answer is no, then she'll fuss and whine. Now, this is the kid who speaks whine. Now, you remember I gave you the answer to this before. And I said to you that when this child whines, you have to say, I'm sorry, I don't speak whine. And you have to do the same thing here. So when she pesters you and you've already given her the answer, then you have to say, you're speaking whine. Or, for example, if you've given her the answer, and we've done this with kids, we didn't ever have to do it with ours because we did this with them immediately. But if you give a kid an answer, if the child says, I want whatever it is, or she says, it doesn't matter, and you give her the answer, and she asks the question again, you don't ever repeat the answer, because now she's speaking whine again. So you can either say, oh, you're speaking whine again, or you can give her variations. You can say, what is the answer to your question? You turn back and you ask her the answer. See, you keep doing all of her work for her, and she's going to let you. When she whines, we answered this question, I think, last week or the week before. She whines, and you jump up and go do things for her, which is ridiculous. You are training her to whine. Then she asks a question, you answer it, she asks it again, and you answer it. Well, unwittingly, you are training her to ask the question again. Why? Because every time she asks it, you answer it again. So the kid's going, this is great fun. My parents always answer the question no matter how many times I ask it, so what am I going to do? I get tons of attention for it. I will ask it 15 times because these idiots that I have as parents are going to answer it 15 times. So what do you think the kid's going to do? So you immediately, the second time you say, what is the answer to your question? I will wait as long as it takes for you to answer it. And so you make her answer the question, but you don't keep answering the question. Silly. She's got you trained. Heather in Oahu. I have a daughter, 29, who is with her partner of 10 years living on the mainland. They have 3 sons, ages 9, 7, and 5. They choose to live in the wilds, far away from any family or neighbors, practically like hermits, and have for 9 years. No phone or internet, get their mail at a mailbox location. I know quite a few people like that. They had called from a payphone or emailed from work only several times a year. I send letters, birthday presents, and so on to the mailbox. We don't even know where they live. Now, that is a little odd. It does not appear that they're being mistreated or unhappy together there. I understand that this is their chosen lifestyle. But it kind of hurts that they choose to isolate themselves so much and deprive me and my grandsons of getting to know each other and sharing loving moments. Recently, she informed us by email that her husband has end-stage kidney disease and had one removed a week ago. I emailed back that I'd love to come and help him out for a few weeks since she has to keep working without time off. They are low income and he takes care of the kids because of an injured back. She emailed back their thanks, but that they don't need our help as his family is providing help for several weeks already, and could I send the money to help with medical bills instead? I sent the money, but I still feel a little hurt. What is my best next moves in trying to help build a truly loving relationship with her? Like most of us, I wasn't a very good parent and did not know how to love her before. Oh, it's just so painful to hear. Only because I had many of the same screw-ups of my own. The biggest thing I would recommend is, and you can find some of the things that you might say in the parenting book and on some of the video mails, but would be in your letters to her to describe some of the mistakes that you made as a parent. To say, you know, only in recent years have I come to realize some of the mistakes that I've made with you, that I've just come to realize what love is. And I would really love the opportunity to talk with you about some of that. I realized that, you know, unconditional love looks like this. That this is what it looks like to love a child without conditions. I didn't do that with you. And given the opportunity, I'd really love to talk to you about it in person. Not to make up for the past, but to change the way our relationship would move forward. So I don't have any expectations around it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not looking for something from my end of it. But if you're willing, I would like to do the present and the future differently. So if you'd be willing to talk to me about it by phone or by letter, I'd really love to do that. And to support you in any way that you'll let me. And begin the conversation that way. Then continue to write her. And it may take a while, but it takes what it takes. And you give her what she'll take. And then in the next letter, you talk about nothing. You just talk about what's going on with you and stuff, because you don't want to overwhelm her with too much touchy-feely stuff after there's been a distant relationship. Then maybe in the letter after that you say, you know, I can remember a time when, and you be specific about some screw-up that you made with her, so that she gets what you did, so that she gets the mistakes that you made. And bit by bit you start to cross that divide that apparently exists between you, because it's pretty clear she's mad. She doesn't isolate herself and not allow you to come and visit her for no reason. Kids who isolate themselves from you for, 9 years, and then say, oh, it's no big deal. Yeah, apparently it is a big deal. There's something going on and she's punishing you. And she can punish you as long as she wants, but if you just keep reaching out and keep reaching out and loving her, and at no point ever get impatient with her punishing you, you'll melt her eventually. You know, I've had a couple of my kids choose to beat up on me for years for the mistakes I made in the past, and you know, you just let them and you keep loving them, and eventually you'll wear them down, because they want you to love them and they want you to prove it. So you prove it. What else you got better to do? Can you talk about interviewing for a job and how to decide how much truth to tell? Seems like you want to tell enough truth to see if you'd be interested in having the interviewer as a boss and to get a feel for how much the company deals with mistakes. There's not time to tell whether the interviewer is wise. What kind of truth-telling is appropriate in this case? I would suggest reading the Real Love in the Workplace book. I really would. In fact, there's a whole section of a chapter telling you just how much truth to tell in an interview, just about that subject. So, but the longer version of that is this. You want to tell enough truth to be identified as an honest person, and to find out whether they can handle the truth. Those are the two things. So you don't want to get in there and tell a whole bunch of truth about your personal life. Stupid. Don't get in there and talk about the problems you had in your marriage and your children. Moron. But you do want to go in there and tell a little bit about the truth, a little bit, just enough to find out what they can handle about, like, you know, here's some of the strengths that I have as an employee. Here are a couple of weaknesses that I have as an employee. You might say, you know, I'm really great at this, and I'm really great at this. Part of my job requires that I do some accounting. I'm not as good at accounting as I am at this, but I'm really good at getting help with accounting and with other people. I use an accounting program, I blah, 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 blah. So you mention a weakness. And if when you mention a weakness and the boss goes, oh, ooh, a weakness, ugh, oh, I don't know, man, you have a weakness. I'm not so sure you want to work for that place, do you? Where you're going to work for a guy who goes crazy every time you make a mistake? That's why you want to tell this guy the truth. So it's kind of like going on a first date. In fact, almost exactly like going on a first date. That's what an interview is a first date in the workplace. And you find out what they can handle, and you go from there. And like I say, the workplace book will help you. We're back to this kid who keeps asking the questions. And if you ask her the question and the answer, if you've given the kid the answer no, and then she comes back with yes, then who cares? If she's doing it just to be contrary, then you say, okay, she knows what the answer is. You don't care if she comes back with the wrong answer. You've already given her the answer. And if she comes back with the wrong one just to be snotty, what do you care? She knows the answer you've given her. So if she gives you the wrong answer just to be a stinker, so what? She knows what the true answer is. But you're not going to play her game of continuing to give her the right answer just because she's asking it. And if she keeps asking after she gives you the wrong answer, then you say, so what is the answer? And if she keeps giving you the wrong one, you say, okay, well, you know the answer. Then you don't even keep saying, so what is the answer? You just say, you know. You know. But you don't play the game. And then you may have to just go back to, that's whining, and we don't speak whine here. And you'll train her out of that. She's only doing it because you're playing the game with her. So, simply spectacular, the questions you've asked. And we've had just a delightful group. So, we're going to see you guys a week from today. It's been just thrilling. And remember Phoenix, sign up for Phoenix if you're anywhere close to there. If you're not close to there, shoot, come to Phoenix anyway. So we'll see you in Phoenix look up on the website. I think it's the 17th and 18th, 2 days. And in the meantime, we love you tons. See you then.